Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure that all of you are here. And also, it's an honor to me to introduce teacher Ana Laura Martinez and her talk called Science and Language, the Window to Equality. Before to start, I'm going to read about teacher Ana Laura. Ana Laura Martínez Vázquez holds an English language teaching BA by UEH, Mexico. She is a specialist in book editing and project management by Universidad La Salle. She has been an academic consultant and teacher trainer since 2006, former sponsoring editor for ELT materials published in Latin America, Asia, and Middle East for kinder, primary, and young adult segments. She is now working as ELT Academic Director and Regional Portfolio Manager at Infracer ELT. She is currently pursuing a master's degree in Public Image Engineering. So welcome teacher Ana Laura, and she's going to show us a presentation. So please enjoy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Language Fest. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Ana Laura Martínez Vázquez. She holds an English language teaching BA by the Autonomous University of the State of Hidalgo here in Mexico. She is a specialist in book editing.
This is Ana Laura Martínez Vázquez, broadcasting from Mexico City. I was invited by Universidad Autónoma del Estado de Hidalgo to talk about one very important issue, that is equity. And well, I work for ElT. I am the academic director for Latin America, and I would like to talk about this topic that might be very complex from the point of view of an educator. So I could share my experiences to all of you regarding my professional life, my personal life, how I have dealt with equity to get there, etc. But I think I prefer to talk about the road to equity from the point of view of an educator, and not an educator in general. I mean, an English educator, a language teacher. So that's what I am going to talk about today to all of you, and I really appreciate that you are here with us, sharing your time and to be here. That's an honor for me. All right, so this is Science and Language, the window to equity. And as I was getting ready for this presentation, I was doing my research, and I was going through articles and some books I have at home, and web pages, TED Talks, etc., and also conversations with some friends of mine, some relatives of mine that are teachers too, etc. As part of this process, I bumped into this quote that I loved because it helped me to put into words what I was trying to explain at that moment. And it says, language and culture are the frameworks through which humans experience, communicate, and understand reality. And it blew my mind because regarding language, we deal with language all the time as language teachers, as English teachers. We deal with language every time, but not only with the grammar and the vocabulary and the syntax and the mechanics of the language, these technical parts, but also we are interested in our students to be able to communicate properly and effectively. But the thing is that it says the language and the culture, of course, are the frameworks through which humans experience life in general. So the first thing I thought when I saw this, I read this quote was, so this means that as English teacher, I am giving my students the opportunity to have different frameworks, to have more possibilities to express themselves and to understand their reality, because that's another thing. Each one of us have our own reality. My reality might not be yours, or might not be my husband's reality, or it might not be everybody else's reality. It is different, and we express it differently, we explain it differently through these frameworks. So that's what I understood, or that's what I liked to think when I first read this quote. We are providing our students with different options, different frameworks to see, explain, understand their world and the reality. And also, as language teachers, we have an obligation that is to help them use the language properly so they can use it as an effective tool for doing all those things we talked about, to express themselves, to communicate, but also to understand and explain the world and the reality of theirs and what is happening around them. And that what I would like to talk about during this talk is the way these two components play a crucial role in our society today. From us, from the English teachers, we have these two components that are language and science. And we are dealing with this as educators all the time. And we have a big responsibility and a big honor, because we can do it. We can help our students get there, get to understand, and also to develop this value of equity. But our first mission as language teachers, as linguists, is to help them, or help ourselves even, to understand the difference between equality and equity. That is not the same. And you maybe have noticed that these two words are being used indistinctively. Like you have one, you get it at the first, when you want to express yourself when talking about these topics, and we get equality at first, right? It's like our, it is in our bag of high frequency words, so we get it. But actually, the meaning of equality and equity can be more different to each other. So first, let's talk about what matters here. That is the difference between equality and equity. So according to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, we have equality, and it says, of some measure, quantity, amount, or number as another. So if our goal is to achieve equality, we couldn't be more unfair because it is not possible. We cannot treat everybody the same way. We cannot give everybody the exact same things. We cannot try to make everybody respond, think, feel the same way. Equality wouldn't be fair because we are very different between us. I mean, as human beings, as beings, we are very, very different. And we might be going through different circumstances. Probably we were born in, I'm sure we were born in very different situations. Physically, we have different capabilities, physically speaking. We are equipped in many different ways, emotionally, physically, mentally, you name it. We are different, and we cannot try to give everybody the very same things, the very same treatment, because that wouldn't be fair. And it is very easy to pick this word to try to express that we want to be fair. But when we talk about equality, we are not being fair. If you notice, we have here an image that I found to be very interesting. And that's exactly what I mean. I mean, it is the same place, the same environment, but the circumstances of each person are completely different. So a third party with a good heart, because I'm sure that that person or that group of people, they do have a very good heart and they are very well intentioned. They want to help, and they give each one of these people in the scene the very same tools to overcome a problem. That is equality. It is not being fair. The solution doesn't fit everybody, and those are good intentions, but that is my point. We have to understand first the difference between equality and equity. When we talk about equity, we are dealing fairly and equally with all concerned, right? So the first thing we must observe in equity is that in the first place, you recognize that each individual is different. Each individual has very different circumstances, points of view, physical appearance, emotional structure, mental structure as well. You name it. I mean, you know what I mean. So first, we acknowledge that everybody is completely different. And then, based on those differences, we adjust the circumstances, the tools, the treatment, etc. So we meet their needs. That is equity. The irony of all this is that when in our pursuit of equality, that is very noble, I acknowledge that. In our pursuit of equality, we make the chronically subrepresented groups have less visibility, because we try to, as I said, we try to, I will use this expression, to make everybody fit in the same box. And that cannot be possible. That would be unfair for some of us, right? So what is happening is that some groups that are normally very visible in the society, they get the help, or they get some benefits. And if we don't see these underrepresented or subrepresented groups, they don't get that help and they don't get that attention they really need. So that is, I know it is very ironic to talk about equality and not being fair, but that's why we change that word equality into equity. The key is that it fosters or promotes visibility, acknowledges the differences among all members of the society. And normally, when we address these topics, when we talk about equity, sometimes we name it equality, but when we talk about equity, we tend to think immediately in the differences between men and women, right? That is a topic that is being it is being very visible now. It exists, of course it does. It is important to address, of course it is. But also we must recognize that there are other groups in our society that are not being seen. Among those groups is women, of course, but also we have groups that are not being seen or not being addressed properly because of their gender, of course, but also because of their income, because of the place they were born, because of the color of their skin, because of their religious practices, because or beliefs, or because of the clothes they like to wear, because they wear tattoos, because their sexual preferences. I mean, there are many groups that are not being seen. And although it is important to make this issue or this problem we're having in our societies, in which women are not treated fairly, or I wouldn't say the same as men, because again, we're not asking for that. I wouldn't ask for that because we're different. We need to be treated fairly, but also it is important to make other groups visible, right? Everybody deserves to be seen, and everybody deserves to be treated with this equity. And the importance of language, the importance of being able to express properly. In the first place, to select the word equity instead of equality, that would be the very first big step to start treating or start being fair to everybody. Because when we choose the word equity, we start acknowledging immediately the differences among people. Then when you acknowledge what is happening, it is easier to start discussing the way we can improve the circumstances. That would be the very first big step. That's why language is so important. The proper, as long as we can express ourselves properly and we are accurate in the way we want to express our ideas, it will be much easier to start generating these discussions that are addressing the issues properly. So through language, we learn, we discuss, we explain, and my favorite, that's from my an idea I always have. We are able to debunk myths. And this is a part I enjoy a lot to discuss with friends of mine, my family, and people around me in general. This concept of myths and the role of language for helping us understand this phenomenon that are surrounding us and we cannot explain clearly, we create myths. So that happens for, I don't know, explaining the universe, natural phenomenon, but also for explaining things we cannot understand or are new to us. Could be some groups in the society. We might know someone for the first time. We don't understand that person, where they come from, why they wear those clothes, or why they think that way, why they are expressing the way they are expressing themselves. And immediately, and I'm not criticizing that behavior because it's absolutely natural, we immediately try to explain to ourselves what is happening. And we might create these explanations that could be spread, and they become myths. Normally, a myth is a hypothesis that was used first to explain a phenomenon and was shared with many others, but was never proven to be true or correct. Many of those myths out there are not based on information that is true, or they become very popular and they are spreading information that might affect others. That happens a lot with us as human beings. I'm not criticizing the fact that we start creating these myths. What I don't agree with is that we stick to them. We don't bother to go beyond, to ask questions, to read, or to observe, or to try to get further information to either confirm that information is true or change our point of view or the way we think about certain situations or even some people, right? That's what I like the reason why I like to point out this very last part, that is debunking myths, right? Okay, I understand that the road to equity is, you have to reach several milestones in that road, in which you ask questions, observe, confirm your hypothesis, or you change your point of view and you elaborate a new one, because it's a constant task in which we will be learning more and more and more. So the way we choose the words to express ourselves would be the very first step, the very first milestone. And I wouldn't recommend to use the word equality, but to use the word equity, that it has to do with the acknowledgement of the differences among us human beings, right? Then for the second part, we have science. You might be wondering, okay, what does that have to do with my chores as teacher, or with my responsibility as an English teacher? So I understand language, okay, but what about science? All right, well, in these new trends in education, that's what I love about being involved with education. Every year, every 5 years, every decade, we have these new trends in education, and we have to keep updated. And one of these new trends is STEM programs. And these STEM programs, the proposal is that students from kindergarten all the way to university, or postgrad students, etc., are exposed to science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Okay, why is that? And aren't we properly exposed to these contents? Well, sadly, unfortunately, the exposure to these contents is not always the same for everyone. That's the thing. So when we talk about children, teenagers, adults, people being exposed to contents related to science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, we are talking about developing a new set of skills in those individuals. This new set of skills have to do with the scientific method, critical thinking, inquisition, and dialogue. So if we go back to this point of debunking myths, again, it is natural to the human being to create myths around things we first encounter and we might not understand immediately. We start judging and generating hypotheses. So the problem is when we are not able to go beyond the hypothesis and we start spreading that hypothesis as the truth. That's when the myths become myths, right? Whenever we are able to develop these skills related to the scientific method, this critical thinking, being inquisitive, and being able to have a dialogue with someone based on science, we will be able to debunk those myths. We will be able to change our point of view for the better, because we're going to be able to first ask questions be inquisitive, create hypotheses, read, experiment, observe, do whatever you have to do to either confirm the hypothesis or get rid of it. And based on that, we will be able to repeat the process over and over and over and over and over again in different situations. And also, we will be able to have conversations with other people with different opinions and being able to have an agreement on something. Sadly, we all have gone through this process in which you are trying to explain something to someone who thinks in a different way, and they are not able to have a discussion, to listen to you. It's like they must win an argument when it is not even an argument. It is only a discussion, a friendly one. You want to learn from them, and you want them to learn from you if possible, right? And it is not able because we don't have this preparation. So it has to do with language, of course, the proper use of language, but also with the equipment of children with all these set of skills that are being developed by these subject areas. How is STEM related to equity? Well, it's all about related to access. When we talk about science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, it is very unfortunate to see that not everybody has the same access to these contents, to this way of thinking, right? I'm going to share a personal experience with you. It is related to a part of my family. I am half Oaxaqueña. A big, enormous part of my family comes from Oaxaca, and they are very traditional. A very traditional family, old school. I love them deeply, and they are sweet and nurturing, and I love them deeply. But I must acknowledge that the way they think about their children's future might be biased, and they help certain part of the family to have access to STEM contents according to certain situations. For example, we have these two boxes, right? The box of the girl and the box of the boy. The box of the girl, if you observe this girl, you might immediately think she's from Mexico or Central America or Latin America, South America. Maybe she's from someplace in Estado de Mexico, or maybe El Salvador, Peru, Ecuador, we don't know, right? But she's a girl from Latin America. And we see that boy. And the boy, we might start thinking he might be from the US or Canada, or maybe European, or probably he's from Mexico, but from Monterrey, or he might be from Mexico, but he comes from maybe a rich family in some areas, in some rich neighborhoods in Mexico City. Okay. It's fine if your brain starts judging these two children by their appearance, by their age, by whatever. It's okay, it's normal. Well, what happens, and what it shouldn't be normal, is that the access to STEM contents is biased by the origin, the religion, the income of their parents, their nationality. That is what is not correct. Why did I mention my family from Oaxaca? Well, my sister and I used to visit my uncles, aunts, cousins, you know, big family from Oaxaca. Or they used to come to visit us. And I noticed at a very early age that when we were little, some of my cousins used to say, I want to be a lawyer. And the immediate reaction of the grown-ups in the group was, oh, but you know, you're so sweet and you're so pretty, and being a lawyer, it's for very aggressive people. So why don't you become, I don't know, I'm going to say something, a nurse? And well, I was always like, you know, kind of shocked because I didn't like those kind of comments. I used to say I wanted to become a doctor. I said it for many years. I want to be a doctor. And their reaction was, but what are you going to do when you get married? What are you going to do when you have children? Are you going to be all night long in the hospital? Are you going to abandon your children for your job? Or, well, when you get married, you will stop working and you will devote yourself to your children. I understand the place those comments came from. It was a matter of education. It was a matter of family values. It was, I know, I'm not judging them for that. But unfortunately, these situations, the gender difference, the income difference, the place you come from difference, dictates the kind of content you get at school. And if this girl wants to be an astronaut, I bet all my money on it. She will become an astronaut, but it will be way more difficult for her than for the boy, for example, right? What we are trying to do with this kind of proposals of the STEM learning, the STEM contents, is access, that no matter where these children are from, no matter if they are in a public school or in a private school, no matter if they come from a poor family or a rich family, etc., they have access to these contents. So, and you know what? You might be wondering, and as an English teacher, what is my role in all this? How can I put these two things together in my classes so I change the world? You are changing the world, teachers. You English teachers have been changing the world forever. I mean, if we think of this combination of language and science, we have been doing this for 15 years or even longer, maybe. But let's say 15 years. For 15 years, when I started teaching, it was my first contact with Clio. And for me, it was very crazy when I started. I think it was a bit longer than 15 years, but when I started teaching, I learned about Clio, and it blew my mind because I couldn't believe how brave it was, the idea to put these two elements together: language plus mathematics, science, physical education, culture, arts, etc., etc., etc. And in 2017, with this new program, it was published by CEP. They started talking about transversalidad in lower grades. they did it in systems like the DGD, public systems or public high schools. They started talking about transversalidad like probably 7-8 years ago, but we English teachers have been doing it for over 50 years now. We have been breaking these paradigms all the time, and this access to this kind of contents from the language teaching or the English class point of view is giving our students so many different frameworks to understand their reality, to understand the world in different ways. So you are really changing the world, even when you don't even, sometimes we don't even know it when we are doing it, but we are approaching, or we are giving our students these contents related to other subject areas through English in our classes. We have been doing it forever, and that is the key. That is the road to equity. That is the road to acknowledge these differences, to be fair with them, to develop the same set of skills among everyone. It doesn't matter if they come from a little town in Molango or if they come from a big city like Puebla or Monterrey, Guadalajara. We are giving them access to education, which is the window to a better world, the window to equity. So teachers, as I said earlier, I didn't want to talk about my experiences from a female point of view, working in a job that my family from Oaxaca, they are still shocked because I'm not a doctor. I didn't become a doctor because they were very worried that my children and my husband and my house and everything were going to be abandoned because I had to work, right? But I am very lucky to work in a company and to have worked in other companies too, in which I had the opportunities. Yes, I had many challenges. I had to sometimes even ignore some comments related to me, referring to me as a woman, as too young at that, but back then, too young, a woman, she's going to get married, she won't be able to do this, she won't be able to do that. When her child gets sick, she will run to her and forget about everything else. You know, all these stereotypical comments related to women. I went through that, yes. My fellow co-workers and even my family had to learn or redesign their thinking. But you know, I couldn't have done anything I did if I didn't have the opportunity to be exposed, as I said earlier, to this kind of contents, not only at school, but I had the help from my mom and my grandma, one of my aunts. They were constantly bringing to me these contents, and they were bringing to me tasks, very practical tasks in an everyday basis, not even prepared, but they were very into asking questions, having conversations, going through the scientific method, making me read. I hated it, but it was very useful. Making me analyze and, as I said, ask questions and be critical. If without them, And without the proper guidance of these three characters in my life, I'm sure I would have given up when I was going through those difficult situations in my professional and personal life. So the strength I could have, I got it from them. I got it from that part of my education, and I will always be thankful about it. So maybe your children, boys, girls, doesn't matter, your children, your students, they do not have that support at home. They might not have someone like my mom or my grandma or my aunt to tell them what to do, or to tell them they are right to think differently, or they are right to feel they want to do something else. Maybe they don't have those role models at home, but they have you. They have your class, and you might and will change their life, and that will bring us all closer to equity. That is the thing. So teachers, thank you for paying attention to me, sharing this point of view to equity. If you want to get the resources, I can share them with you. You can send me an email. There you're seeing there my email address. I would be very happy to see your emails in my inbox. I always write back. So if you want to get the resources, I can share them with you. If you want to ask something and you are not very, like into asking those questions in the Q&A we're going to have now, it's fine. Send me an email and I will be very happy to write back. Thank you very much. I enjoyed a lot to be part of this project, and I send you a hug. Take care and have a very nice day. Thank you. See you soon.
Well, thank you so much for that touching and beautiful talk, teacher Ana Laura. I must confess, I almost cried. It was very interesting. The end, very, very interesting, and a topic that probably we never heard about equality and equity. So thank you for sharing this to our students, to the teachers, as you mentioned in the presentation. And well, I'm going to read a comment here in the chat that caught my attention. It's from Christian Alexis Del Real. He says, I consider that equity is an important and complex issue to present. What do you think, teacher Ana Laura?
Yes, it was. Let me tell you. Let me share with you that when Maestra Claudia came to me and told me that you were interested in me talking about this topic, I immediately felt this big responsibility, because it is a very complex thing to talk about. It's big responsibility, but I made the decision to be brave. Because it is an honor. It is an honor. I think the times we live in, it is important to do some research and be brave to talk about these topics. We need it. We really need it. And I saw it, I thought about it as an opportunity to educate myself about the topic. As I told you during the presentation, I am very fond of the scientific method. And I always follow these steps. I try to question myself, write my hypothesis, do some research, observe the world, and then confirm my hypothesis. It sounds like, come on, but I truly do those things all the time. So I tried to carry out the preparation for this presentation that way, in the most careful and respectful way possible, because as human beings, I think we deserve it. And yes, it was very complex, but it was totally worth it. So I hope you liked the result.
Absolutely, teacher. Thank you. And well, we have a question from Sarai Casares, and she says, how do you carry equity in your daily life?
That's an excellent question. I think a very nice, it's a matter of practice. And as I said in the presentation earlier, we have to exercise first. The very first step, it would be to replace in our brain the word equality by equity. Because equality, as I mentioned, it would be compared to put everybody and everything into boxes. And the world doesn't work that way. We can't be fit into boxes. We need a box of our own. And that wouldn't be possible. So to practice equity, I think in the very first place, we should embrace differences. Every single human being is unique, and we must start seeing each other that way. And we can start practicing that into our own family. For example, if you allow me to give you or share with you an experience within my own family, would be my brother, right? My brother. As I told you in the presentation, I come from a very traditional family, and he was the very first one who started, he's a big fan of tattoos. And it was, the very first time he came to us and showed us the biggest tattoo you have ever seen in Martinez body was his. So it was a big shock. And it's just a silly example if you want, Sarai. But instead of coming quick with judgment and telling him the 1,000 reasons why he shouldn't have done such a horrible thing, I decided to ask, why did you decide to do why did you choose that tattoo, the design, where do you go to, and the reason why? And I just got interested on that. I must confess, I didn't like it at first.
Yeah.
I might not agreed at first, but that's my problem, not his. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
The tattoo was there. It was not going to be useful for him. That his big sister, kind of his mom, was judging him and telling him what not to do, and that he was going to regret it. It probably, as I said, it is a silly example. Yeah. But we can start within our family, within our friends. Let's embrace the differences with our friends, within our family, within everybody else around us. We are different, and let's embrace that. And that is the very first step to start practicing equity. acknowledge differences, embrace them, respect them. And if you don't know anything about that person that seems so weird, learn about it.
Yeah.
Or if you don't want to learn about it, just don't judge and turn around and that's it. But let's not be prompt to judge or to bother or to torture someone. That's the biggest problem.
That's true. Teacher,
Right.
thank you so much. I think we are running out of time, but thank you for your presentation. Guys, you already have the contact of teacher Ana Laura, and
Yes.
as she said, you can send her an email and it will be great.
Yes.
Thank you, teacher, for being here. It was an honor to me. And well, I hope I see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. It was very nice to read your comments. I was a bit nervous at the beginning, but you helped me a lot through the presentation. Thank you for your help, for your assistance. Thank you very much. I hope to see you soon someday and have a very nice weekend.
Thank
See
you,
you
teacher
soon.
Ana Laura. Thank you to all, guys. See you. Bye.
Bye.